Hey everybody, it's Anna. I'm glad to be with you this week, but I'm not too happy about what it is that I want to talk with you about this week. I'm wondering, and maybe you're wondering too, what has Jason Kenney, the Minister of Immigration, got against immigrant women? He seems to be continually coming forward to target immigrant women with various declarations and rules and pieces of legislation. The most recent, of course, is in the past couple of days that Jason Kenney has declaratively said that Muslim women who wear the niqab or the burqa, who are taking the citizenship oath, are going to be forced to raise the veil when they speak to a citizenship judge. And the minister is absolutely furious that he's found out from one MP that a few women were not asked to raise their veil when taking the citizenship oath. And he raises this, and he uses language that is frankly very abusive and very paternalistic to talk about the Muslim community and to talk about women within that community who choose to wear the veil, or, and it's quite possible, some of those women do not have a choice and are being forced to wear the veil. In any case, the minister's action is not going to do anything to solve the problem of women who are oppressed within those communities, just as nothing this government has done does anything to address the oppression of women within many faith communities and non-faith communities. The oppression of women in Canada has in fact been furthered by this government, including the oppression of immigrant women. This latest pronouncement by Kenney, I believe, is designed to both stoke latent racism that exists in this country against people who are perceived to be different. It is sexist. It is Islamophobic. And I think it is designed to take our attention away from the very real and harmful things this government has been doing over the past few months, particularly. That includes withdrawing from the Kyoto Accord. That includes the abuse of power that we've seen in terms of their dealings with the people of Attawapiskat, particularly the chief, Teresa Spence, up there. It takes away from their ridiculous Bill C-10, the crime bill, the omnibus crime bill that is going to put more and more people in prison. It takes our attention away from the policies that have been introduced at Immigration Canada that further penalize particularly immigrant women, including the policy that says that someone who is recently married and emigrates to this country must remain in that relationship for 2 years before they would be allowed to leave that relationship, which is going to harm many, many other immigrant women. It takes our attention away from the policies of the deportation ministry that Mr. Kenney runs, that has sent countless numbers of people back to hardship, violence, and possibly even death in their home countries. And it takes our attention away from the killing of the long gun registry. And I can tell you, if Mr. Kenney and Mr. Harper and their government cared about women's rights, they would not have killed the long gun registry. We would be absolutely certain of that. We know that that registry, which was implemented after the Montreal massacre, the worst crime against women that we've seen, or one of the worst crimes against women we've seen in this country, the registry was implemented and created after that tragedy. It has helped to lower the rates of domestic violence, particularly in rural areas, which are supposedly this government's base. And yet the rights of women in those cases seem not to matter. While a few women who wish to take the oath of citizenship in a way that protects their privacy and protects their modesty and protects them in the ways that they have chosen through wearing the veil, that's who he goes after. I also think that this pronouncement against immigrant women, particularly Muslim women, is designed to shape public opinion in light of the fact that the Supreme Court right now is considering the case of a Muslim woman who wears the veil, who has been is accusing a man of sexual assault and is in court trying to protect her right to wear the veil while she testifies in court. And that is being considered by the Supreme Court right now. So I got to question Minister Kenney coming out against Muslim women in this way who wear the veil. His timing seems very, very suspect, and this government is one that has not hesitated to interfere in legal matters before. They have used the RCMP in the past to bring charges at politically very sensitive times during an election in the not too distant past, and I think we're seeing it again, the possibility of interference in the workings of the Supreme Court. I know that lots of us have opinions about women wearing, being covered in public, wearing burqas and wearing the niqab. And I know there is lots of debate within the Muslim community about that, whether it's a religious requirement or not. That is a debate that community will continue to have, just like lots of other faith communities have debates, like the Catholic Church's debates about women being able to be in positions of leadership within the church, like women's right to control over her body and access to abortion, like the rights of queer and transgender people to live safely and fully and be accepted fully in this society. There are lots of religious practices, debates in every faith community. And those faith communities will continue to have those debates. And we as individuals who aren't in those communities will have our own opinions about those kinds of things and whether or not they make sense in secular Canada. But to punish women, so we can have those debates, but it is not my place or Minister Kenney's place or anybody else's place to tell women what they can and cannot wear in a citizenship oath and any other practice. The other thing is the minister is raising a problem that simply does not exist, and that's why we have to wonder about the Islamophobia and the ulterior motives for this. We find out, since he's raised the specter of women somehow not being the same kind of Canadians as everybody else when they take their oath, at the same time we find out that women in fact can make an arrangement to meet privately with someone and have done that arrangement right up until yesterday or the day before when he made his announcement. Women sometimes meet privately with an official of the citizenship court, and they raise their veil so that the person, for purposes of identification. Women do this when they're going through security in airports. Women do this in other situations where the need to see their face and determine their eligibility is there. So why is this an issue? Again, we have to wonder whether Kenney is raising this in order to foment racism, to foment Islamophobia, parroting what we're seeing south of the border in the United States. I think we, as residents and citizens of this country, need to be very, very concerned and angry and stand up against this kind of bigotry. We need to recognize it for what it is. We need to recognize it for a manipulation of the hearts and minds of people who feel that they're not affected by this issue. We need to understand this as a bit of sleight of hand. Look over here while we do all sorts of things that harm our planet and our country over there. But don't pay attention to that. Let's pay attention to a few women who supposedly are not coming into the Canadian, agreeing with Canadian values, whatever those might be. I think we have to be on guard against this. I think we need to understand that this is only going to increase. These attacks, first on the Muslim community, particularly on women, on immigrants, on other marginalized people, First Nations people in this country. We're going to see the attacks step up against homeless and poor citizens. We've already seen that. We're seeing that women's rights are being thrown under the bus by this government, and progressively every day we're going to see more and more of these rights trampled. I can assure you that we need to be on guard and look for this government to next go after LGBTQ rights, over women's lawful access to abortion in this country, and the list will go on. This government has already said in the past that you will not recognize Canada when they get through with it. And I think that this is what we're starting to see. And we must resist these appeals to the lowest common denominator. We must resist these appeals by this government to foment division and notions of what a real Canadian is as opposed to a not real Canadian. We need to stand up against this. We need to fight back and resist it. You can contact your MP, particularly if your MP is conservative. I want you to get on the phone and on the email and let them know that you do not agree with these divisive policies, that you understand that there are many ways to accommodate women who choose to wear the veil, and that if there are women who don't choose to wear the veil but are forced to, either because they believe that they will be in violation of religious principles, or because they have some paternal patriarchal figure forcing them to do so, then those women need support, not to be shamed and humiliated in public, not to be dissuaded from coming forward if they've been sexually assaulted, not to be told that they cannot be a full member of this society, a full Canadian, unless they succumb to the bullying of the immigration minister, who has taken this decision with little to no consultation based on one complaint from one of his fellow MPs. My goodness, imagine if every time we complained to Jason Kenney, we could get this kind of result. Of course we can't. We can only get this kind of result if our complaint appeals to racism and Islamophobia, or appeals in some way to an anti-immigrant bias. And that's a shame, and we need to stand up against that. So I encourage you to do that. This is the season where we're supposed to be celebrating community, where we're supposed to be rejoicing in the fellowship and the camaraderie with our colleagues, with our neighbors, with our friends, with our communities. We must fight back against these measures that are designed to divide us and designed to set us one against the other and set us up in judgment of other women. We must resist that. I can't say it strongly enough. So I hope that you'll join me in doing that, letting your MP know, talking about this to people, letting people understand that women's rights need to be protected in this country, and that includes all women. Every woman who steps on the shores of this country has the right to full protection under the Charter and under the law, and we have got to go to bat for these women as well, because if we don't go to bat for these women, the next time it's going to be someone else. We've got to step up and go to bat for them, etc., etc. We cannot let this government believe that they can roll over the rights of immigrant women in these ways and not go challenged. So thanks. I hope you'll do that, and I'll see you next week.